Usually when a new 4-star comes out, I try to find some records to test them out, and then I talk about the operator itself. This time I couldn't find a record for Lutonada. That sounds very bad considering I managed it even with Verdant, but she isn't quite as bad as this implies. Let's unpack her kit and I'll go over how she performs in practice. She's a Mudrock defender, so high health and attack, but she can't be healed, usual stuff. Her talent gives her % max health back when an enemy blocked by her dies. With Modo, it goes up to 22% max health, which is around 950 health at max level. This sounds very similar to Estelle, who heals if an enemy dies in the 8 tiles around her. Lutonada's heal is both better and worse. Thanks to her higher health and higher % heal, she gets more health than Estelle per kill. But she can miss out on a lot of heals that Estelle would get. If you pair Lutonada with a DPS operator, they might kill enemies before they reach her, thus wasting her healing. Regardless, the healing is functional enough to give her a somewhat unique spot among 4-stars. For example, on a stage like 716, the right lane is a mix of flags and high defense artillery. Without Lutonada, it's difficult for a single 4-star to both tank the artillery across the stage and kill enough enemies at the end to not leak. Durnar can do this, but she would have near zero health at the end. Lutonada is much more suited for this. On to the skills. Lutonada's skill 1 is literally Jessica's one. Explaining why this is a terrible skill on a defender is a waste of air. Moving on. Her second skill does 3 things. Increases her defense by 130% at M3. At max stats, that's 1450 defense. Does 100% of her attack as arts damage in the 8 tiles around her every 2 seconds, so around 400 DPS for a total of 12,000 damage per skill use. Pulls all unblocked enemies towards her with the same interval. The death increase is great as long as you don't think about how much defense Cora has before using her skill. 12,000 total damage is fairly low, even for an AoE skill, but it has a decent enough SP cycle at 35 SP, and it's also a defensive skill, so that's not too bad. The pull though. The pull brings me nothing but sadness. You might think of Mint pulling enemies around her, but unlike Mint, even at M3 the force pull is level 0. I'd say it sucks dick, but implying it can suck anything is already exaggerating. She can only pull enemies from 1 tile away if they are weight 0, so basically just slugs and dogs. Weight 1 enemies get pulled for about half a tile every 2 seconds, so most enemies can just walk away from her, even through her pulls. Weight 2 enemies only get interrupted but no movement, and anything higher doesn't get moved at all. It is a shame because it makes her fairly worthless for crowd control. Most weight 0 enemies have 0 defense and they just melt. You don't need to bother with crowd control. You mostly use it for heavier enemies that take longer to die. I would have enjoyed using a ground mint, but as she is now, it's just flavor on her skill. So after I've shot all over her skills, how can I say the patented cope phrase of she's not that bad? She exists in a weird space between Durnar, Gummy and Cora. Heals for more than Cora but takes more damage, has less reliable healing than Gummy but is tankier and does more damage, does less damage than Durnar but she heals and has a defense up. I'm sure some 4-star player will eventually find a stage where Lutonada is the best option for 4-stars. I think her main downside is actually her DP. Now, obviously this is the downside of the archetype, but when you have enough DP and deploy Mudrock, Penance or Vulcan, they can start doing shit in a few seconds. Lutonada is mostly just a brick with a small amount of damage, so she needs fire support, thus wasting even more DP. This can be very awkward to work around on a map where DP matters. So overall, would I recommend building Lutonada? Absolutely not. Watching her S2 fail to pull basic enemies will make you start drinking. If you want a shitty Mudrock, get Vulcan. If you want a tankier Estelle, deploy a medic.